Welcome back. New York City Mayor Eric Adams is accused of playing the race card after he seemed to blame white reporters and editors for the negative press coverage over his fight on bail reform. Mayor Adams spoke with state leaders on Monday about removing the cash bail system as the city faces a crime surge. He called the talks constructive, but some news outlets reported that he was unsuccessful, angering him. Watch.
I'm a black man, that's the mayor. But my story has been interpreted by people that don't look like me. We got to be honest about that. How many blacks are in the editorial boards? How many blacks are determining how these stories are being written? And my role as mayor is being interpreted through the prisms of your realities and not mine. You're not writing stories for people who are arrested and beat by police officers. You're not writing stories from those who are dealing with high crime. Diversify your newsroom so I can look out and see people that look like me.
Kaylee, and then he said discomfort is growth. So is discomfort being stabbed 40 times in your own bathtub by a recidivist violent offender like Christina Lee was here?
Yeah, you raise a great point. I mean, it is a tragedy what happened to that young woman. She was apparently screaming, call 911, call 911. Her neighbors heard. The police couldn't even get in the door at first because I guess it was locked. They tried to use a sledgehammer to get in. And the guy had been arrested a half dozen times going back to 2015, including for assault. So, I'm sorry, Mayor Adams and DA Bragg. Remember, DA Bragg told us that, he apologized that the public was confused by his dense messaging. No, you don't have a communications problem. You don't have a messaging problem. You don't have a media problem. You have a facts problem, as violent crime has gone up 46% year to date going through February 13. Fix the streets, and then maybe you'll get some positive coverage.
That's right. And Shannon, the mayor said, as we heard, you're not writing for those who are dealing with high crime, but that's exactly who we are writing and reporting for when we say their names, when we report these horrifying statistics here in the city and throughout the country, Shannon.
Yeah, and I get his point. I think it's an interesting, valid point for conversation about having more diverse people working in newsrooms and reporting on things, as long as it's not tried to be used, use it as a cudgel saying, well, you can't criticize me. I mean, that's a different situation altogether. And when I read about this and saw his comments, it made me think back to this memo that went out during the 2020 election to all of us who were covering and awaiting Mr. then candidate Joe Biden's selection of vice presidential candidate. And we believed it was going to be a woman, probably a woman of color, and just within days it turned out that it was Kamala Harris. But this memo we got, I kept this because it's from a number of women's groups that said, be careful how you talk about women and women of color, what pictures you use, what you say about their likability or their tone. And at the very end of this very lengthy letter to the media, it said, we are watching you. And the implication was, if you criticize or talk about somebody in a certain way, we're going to know it's because you're racist and sexist. And so I think we got to break down that barrier and say we got to report the facts as they are, and if that means criticism, it doesn't matter where you are on the political spectrum or what your background or characteristics are. That's fair game.
Will, I also argue that, frankly, the coverage of Mayor Adams has actually been quite positive. I think the coverage of the existing policies here in the city, of DA Bragg's new policies he tried to implement, and of the situation here in terms of the crime statistics, that has been scathing, but it's been generally positive about Mayor Adams. In fact, with that case with Christina Lee, for example, it specifically said Mayor Adams' comments of we're going to find exactly where the breakdown was in that system. So this also seems like a very heightened reaction to something that I'm not quite sure is being played out in the media, Will.
Which only goes to highlight the entitlement. Couple quick points, okay? I think we have this fascinating, look, politicians have always felt entitled to a certain type of coverage from the media, but they've never been more open about their disappointment. Whether or not that's Biden saying we need more crackdown on misinformation or Adams calls here. That's one. I've never seen this type of open entitlement. Two, to your point, Emily, the stories that are being told, the victims of no cash bail, the victims of these crimes are overwhelmingly black and brown. The victims overwhelmingly look like Eric Adams. Number three, catch up, Eric. I mean, it seems to be the primary priority of every newsroom to diversify, more so than even the quality of their coverage. That seems to be every media organization's primary purpose, catch up. And then finally, I'd say this, that knife is dulled. You do not get to escape criticism and claim racism. That knife has been struck against the stone so many times that it has no ability to cut anymore. It is a dulled knife because of overuse like this from Eric Adams.
Wow. Harris, what do you think?
Well, look, some of his biggest critics were in the primary against him in New York. You know, Maya Wiley, she's black. Andrew Yang, he's diverse. I mean, I don't know what he's talking about. And the reason that he got hired has to do with a completely different other color, blue, because he was a 22-year veteran of the NYPD who said that he could deal with crime differently and more effectively. Look, he hasn't been in office that long. Maybe we'll see him do something different. But to blame the media, and how black, by the way, do you have to be? Because don't make me pull out the receipts of how many times I personally have reached out to this mayor. My show was the first place he ever landed on this network. And later in episodes of Outnumbered Overtime, that was the last time we saw him on this network. Then he was running for mayor. He wanted something different. I get it. Okay. But I'm still a reporter. I'm still a journalist. I'm still, you know, waiting as well. It's not about what we look like. And for the mayor to say that is really short-sighted because the ink is also one color. When they print those newspapers, they don't care about the color of your skin. What they care about is, have you brought down the crime statistics that Kayleigh has talked about? So I'm just asking on behalf of all of those who might be offended by what you said, because even when I show up, no matter what you think may come out of my mouth, I'm still the reporter, whether you can see the color of my skin or not. It is offensive, but you know what it is mostly, Emily? It's cowardly. That's not what you expect from a 22-year veteran of the NYPD. How disappointing. How cowardly of him not to take questions. I'm going to stave off access from the press. Maybe he caught that from President Biden when he was here for the first of two funerals. You heard the mayor speak beautifully at Jason Rivera's funeral in the eulogy. And then about a week later, the president shows up and suddenly, I'm not taking questions and the media are racist or not black enough or whatever he's saying. He's dropping the race card. He's pointing a finger at newsrooms and you're not enough and you're too much. You know what? You're not enough. Sit down and take some questions.
He's taking a playbook from Mayor Lori Lightfoot also. And to
Chicago,
yeah, there you
call
go.
out for all white reporters to sit down. I only want to talk to reporters of color. Put it in a tweet so we can't get it twisted.
But I agree with you. I mean, when you it is disappointing because I had a lot of hope in him, actually. And when you talk about colors, you know, we all bleed red. And all people want is for that blood to stop flowing on the streets.
Amen.
For it to be safe again.